Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Inside Guns with your host, me, the Yankee Marshal. Today, for our first topic, I want to talk about something that came up in one of my live chats. It was a question asked by a viewer. They asked me basically, what kind of things can Joe Biden do through executive orders to affect our gun rights? And what kind of things can he not do? You know, they asked about everything from assault weapons bans, universal background checks, taxes, new requirements to purchase guns, all this stuff. You know, what can he do? Magazine limits, can he instigate any of these things? Or institute, I should say. Well, the answer to each one of these things is different. Some of them he can do, some of them he can't. So let's kind of go through them a little bit at a time here. Let's deal with assault weapons ban. Can Biden institute an assault weapons ban on his own? No, he cannot. You cannot do that through executive order. He would not be able to have that power. He does not have that power, I should say. So assault weapons ban is not anything you have to worry about through executive order. And I've seen a lot of people putting out a lot of misinformation about that, but no, he cannot do that. So you don't have to worry about an assault weapons ban through executive order. And I don't think you have to worry about a national assault weapons ban through the Congress either, because there's just no appetite for that right now. And plus, they're more working on doing this thing state by state than they are doing it nationally, because that's where they're having most success. That's why I always say pay attention to what's going on in your state more so than what's going on at a national level right now, because most of the stuff on the national level is just a smokescreen to keep you from paying attention to your states and your neighboring states. So assault weapons ban, no, he can't do that. Universal background checks. Can he instigate universal background checks via executive order? No, he cannot instigate universal background checks via executive order. Not something he can do, not a possibility, nothing to worry about there. So we do not have to worry about that happening via executive order. Another one I was asked about was, how about special taxes on guns or ammo, like $1 per bullet, or, a $200 tax on guns? Can he do that through executive order? Because that was one of the things I saw some misinformation about on one of the posts. And no, the president cannot pass new taxes, period. That is the Congress's job. He can't instigate any fees or taxes like that on any citizen. That's not something he can do. Can it be done at a state level? Yes, it definitely can. So once again, pay attention to your state level stuff, more so than federal stuff when it comes to this. Another thing people talk about, how about can he take away the liability protection for gun manufacturers? A lot of people are worried about this right now, and they should be, because the liability protection for gun manufacturers is no different than the liability protection all other businesses get. It just had to be put on paper because people weren't enforcing it, basically. Basically, all they're saying is unless they produce a defective product that goes on to harm someone, they're not liable. They're not liable if someone misuses their product. Just like how Gorilla Glue shouldn't be liable if you spray it in your hair like you're a fucking retard. Gun manufacturers should not be held reliable if someone takes their shotgun and goes and takes out their ex-wife or ex-husband or something. They shouldn't be liable for that. No more so than Ford should be liable if that same person goes and runs over their ex-wife or ex-husband with their truck and it's a Ford. But no, he cannot do that. That is a law that protects them. It would take a law to change it. So Congress would have to do that. I don't see that happening anytime soon because, in fact, because the protections that they are actually given under this law are nothing special. They're basically just equal treatment. So I don't see that going away anytime really soon. They give that a lot of lip service, but they know, most of them are attorneys, they know that the companies aren't getting any special treatment, period. They're just not being held responsible for people who misuse their product. So I wouldn't worry about that. Another one people say is, well, can they change the requirements for buying a gun? Can they change the age? Can they change, what kind of background checks and whatever kind of this you got to go through? Not really. No, not through executive order. He can't change any requirements. Now, he can have the ATF interpret things differently. So if there's gray areas, there's some wiggle room there. But as far as just flat out changing something like saying, now you got to be 25 to buy a gun, he can't do that. That's not within his power. And I'm not even saying I object to that. I don't think people under the age of 25 should be allowed to leave their houses, period, without their parents with them. And even then, only for short periods of time, and go to essential things like the grocery store. So, don't look to me for defense for 18-year-olds buying guns. I'm not going to say I think that it's constitutional for that someone who's an adult can't buy a gun. I'm just not going to defend it because, like I said, people under 25 suck. But no, he can't do that. He can't make those changes. Now, another thing is imports. Can he stop imports of guns and stuff from other countries? And this one is a yes, he can do that. He could throw quite a monkey wrench into the works doing that, because we've got a lot of gun manufacturers that are overseas, a lot of distributors that get their guns from overseas. We buy a lot of guns in gun shops that come from overseas, surplus guns, new guns, etc. And the president has a lot of power over what we import. So if he was to put a freeze on a lot of things, he could basically drive a lot of the gun industry out of business simply because they'd be starved for product. So that's something we have to pay attention to. Now, would he do that? I doubt it, because how are you going to explain to Germany that we just decided we don't want your guns? And Germany's going to be like, well, really? Then we don't want your farm products and all this other stuff then. So screw you too. So I don't see that happening, because he'd be pissing off a lot of countries. And plus, a lot of gun manufacturers, because they've gone after government contracts before, have actually built domestic manufacturing plants. And I've said many times, I'd rather buy a foreign gun that's built here in America than I would buy a gun that's owned by an American company that's built overseas any day of the week. So luckily, a lot of the companies have domestic production that hopefully they could ramp up if they needed to, because I think a lot of them have thought sometimes some crazy leftist politician is going to do that very thing. And plus, you got to be American produced to get a lot of contracts that they go out for. So luckily, there is a presence of American factories that produce foreign guns. Some, not all though. Like Chiappa doesn't have one. That's why they had to do the, when they made the 2-inch Chiappas, the snubbies, they had to send them here with 3-inch barrels or 4-inch barrels and then cut them down because they couldn't import them with the 2-inch barrel. So they don't have a presence, obviously. So there would be a lot of guns would just be out of the mix if he did that. That is a power he has. That is something we have to pay attention to, although I don't think it's that likely. Now, where he does have some power, and this is what I worry about the most, is online gun sales. The federal government already misuses the interstate commerce laws to limit gun sales across state lines, saying you can't cross state lines, buy a gun, bring it back. So if they're going to misuse it that way, I have no problem believing they would misuse it in other ways. And I think they would misuse it in a way as to try to stop online gun sales, another way to drive out a lot of gun businesses. If you took away the online aspect of a lot of the bigger gun shops in this country, they'd go under. And that's something I really do fear they're going to go after. That's one of the things on a national level I think we need to pay attention to. That's one of the few national level things that I think outweighs the state level issue on that. If they stop online gun and ammo sales. And I don't think they would have a hard time getting support from the people for that. That's something I think he would even have no trouble getting legislation passed on, because I don't think any politician would have a hard time selling to their constituents that we don't want people buying guns online. You have to be a real person. You have to meet them face to face. If you're selling stuff online, you don't know who you're selling to. Oh, that's horrible. They make it sound like, you can just get online on the Macy's catalog and order a pistol and it shows up at your door, which we all know isn't true, but they're really good at making things that aren't true sound true to people who are uninformed. So I don't think they'd have a lot of trouble getting a lot of public support for that. And wherever the public support goes, politicians go, especially if it's something they want anyway, like disarming people. So that is one of the main things I'm worried about, that right there, the stopping online gun and ammo sales, and possibly even getting legislation to back it up. Because he could do that possibly through executive order, but, something we're going to have to worry about. So that's my biggest concern. Another big concern that he can do through executive order, but not really, that he can't do through executive order, Another thing that he can't do through executive order, but I don't think he would have much of a problem getting passed on the national level through Congress, is universal background checks, like I talked about a minute ago. Because once again, they're going to say, well, if there's not a background check when you sell to someone, how do you know you're not selling to a felon? Oh, these people are just going out at gun shops and just selling to anybody that walks in. No background checks. The gun show loophole, which we all know there is no gun show loophole. Dealers at gun shows have to that have FFLs have to sell their wares just like they would in their store. They have to do a background check. That's why you have that big background check table at most of the big shops in the gun shop or in the gun show. So that's garbage. But they've been selling that lie pretty well. A lot of people still believe that if someone can just get on the line if they're a forbidden person and order it online and get it without ever have any questions asked or having to fill out paperwork, or they can go to a gun show and just buy a gun. Well, they can go to a gun show and buy a gun from a private citizen who doesn't have an FFL, and usually not on the premises. They can't be on the premises of people who have FFLs, so usually that means outside the building, which you can do anyway. That's private citizens selling to a private citizen, which is what they really want to get rid of. They don't care about that type of thing. They want to prevent John A from selling to John B with no paper trail. They don't care if John B is a felon. They just don't want him to be a free individual with a firearm they don't know he has. So that's why they want to get rid of that. And I do think that there is a lot of public support for that because, like I said, oh my God, these people are selling to felons. For one, there's no evidence that a background check ever stopped a bad guy from getting a gun. Two, there's no evidence really to suggest that if bad guys did get guns, they'd commit more crimes with them. People that have the records, people that are forbidden, like ex-cons or people who did something when they were 19 and now they're 50 and they go buy a gun and they get rejected. They're like, haha, that's proof we stopped the crime because a felon tried to buy a gun. Well, that's the only crime with a felon buying a gun. You created that crime. As far as him going and doing something wrong with the gun, there's no evidence that he would do that. There's bad guys who get guns all the time now that are prohibited that don't go out and commit crimes with them. So it's just all bullshit. But that is something, like I said, I think they could get through. I think the things they could be successful on are universal background checks and stopping online gun sales. Both of those will require acts of Congress, though. Not executive order. As far as executive order is concerned, all you have to worry about is how the ATF interprets some things. Like if there's gray areas in the law, like I said, the president has a lot of sway over that, which is why I don't give Trump any props for the shit he did while he was in office. He has total control over the ATF, just like Biden does now. So I don't go for it. Also, like I said, online gun sales. That's something I think that he could affect through executive order. So, like I said, worry about that. But most things you don't have to worry about through executive order. Most things aren't going to happen. The imports and stuff like that, but assault weapons bans, magazine limits, all that stuff, that's going to require acts of Congress, which is going to require a bill first. So until we see some bills, I wouldn't be panicking too much. But right now, like I said, if you're worried about executive orders, there's not a whole lot he can do, so I wouldn't worry about it too badly. Okay, with that said, I want to move on to gun talk, and gun talk's going to be very short tonight. I just want to let everyone know that I am very happy because I got an email today that said that my Chiappa Rhino 30 DSX has now shipped. So they have hit the states, they are hitting distributors and should soon be in stores. So if you're someone who's ordered one, waiting for one, they're out there now. I just sent my FFL information out for mine. So very happy to hear that news today. And for those of you who don't know, that is the solid stainless steel 3-inch Chiappa Rhino. No aluminum body, all stainless steel. And yes, it's a Haas. It's a big boy. It's heavy. But it is also awesome. So I am very anxious to get it. Just when I really did need something to kind of like spur my interest in firearms again, because I'm getting into one of those low periods. Especially with everything going on in the gun community and all the panic, blah, 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 bullshit. So it's nice to get some good news today. So that's my gun talk good news for today. The Chiappa Rhino 30 DSX is hitting distributors. And if you've got one coming, you should be able to get it soon. All right, as usual, I want to end the show, but not quite end the show because I do have an announcement of the winners of the Resident Evil grips to do right after I do this. But I want to almost end the show with our viewer EDC, our concealed carrier of the day. And today we have Drew K. And Drew is carrying a Smith & Wesson 29 6.5-inch barreled 44 mag revolver in his Barsony leather shoulder holster. That's something you don't see very often. Now, I know a lot of people might see this, his 44 mag, long barreled 44 mag, and see that he's wearing a suit and be like, that's a little overkill, don't you think, in an office environment? But you know what? I think a lot of people really underestimate the threat of bear and moose attack in an office environment. It's something a lot of people don't think about, but it does happen. In fact, the statistics say that between 0 and 1 million people every year die that way. So that's just a fact. You have to accept it. So I think he's totally justified in carrying this way. In fact, I love this. I love what he's carrying. If it wasn't for the fact that both of us have wedding rings on our hand, I think we could have had something beautiful together. I might be proposing right now. But we're both married, so alas, it shall never be. But we can always think of what might have been. But I wanted to show everyone today because I think, like I said, awesome setup, carrying that 44 Magnum in a shoulder holster with his suit jacket. Just a great way to carry and a great gun to carry. So that's our viewer EDC of the day, Drew K. with his 6.5-inch 44 Magnum Smith & Wesson Model 29. All right, now I'm going to actually end the show by announcing the 3 names that won the 3 grips, the Resident Evil Samurai Edge Beretta grips that we were giving away in our raffle. So these winners, in order, will be able to choose which set they want from the 3 sets. The person who will get the first choice is Shane Clean or Klein. I'm not really sure which way that last name goes. And also, Shane, you're very lucky I'm letting you win because he's got like a superfluous Y in his name for some reason, a very unneeded Y there, Shayne. A little pretentious. So, but you did get first choice, so you will be choosing which one of the grips you want. And then, out of the ones that are left, the 2 that are left, the next person who gets to choose is you. Zong, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. I wanted to say huge dong when I looked at it, which I'm sure he probably got called a lot in school. And a lot of people right now go like, that's racist. How's that racist? I would love to be called huge dong. In fact, I give all of you permission out there right now to call me the Yankee huge dong Marshall. I have no problem with that. I'll be like, I guess that's just what they call me. Or they must have read my bio. You Zong, that you get the number 2 choice. And then the person who's going to be left with whatever's left over is Brian Turner. Brian Turner, you are winner number 3. Brian also has a Y in his name. I don't like when people spell Brian with a Y. Also, what is it with the millennials and the Y? My son, he got the Y in his name. Zyler, Z-Y-L-E-R. And Caden, K-A-Y. What is it with the Y and all the young people? But those are the winners, you 3. So congratulations. Just get with me. Send an email to shootingleftofcenter@gmail.com. And once the first person claims theirs, I'll let the second person know what's available for them, and so on. If you're the third person, Brian Turner, just send me an email saying, hey, I get what's left, and I'll let you know which one you end up with. But those are our winners. Congratulations. All right, that's our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you come back tomorrow. Until then, I want to sign off as usual by saying, as far as the state of the world today is concerned, it ain't that bad. But it is what it is. It's a lot better than it used to be, I'll tell you that, from someone who's been around for a while. But you know what things will be in the future? If we keep our heads about us, we ignore the fear-mongers, we ignore the profiteers that want to keep us angry and panicked and just spending our money and being predictable. If we ignore those people, what things will be in the future is better.